Today, we are rolling in jobs, but... Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics, one latest post covering finance and property news. Well, we got the December 2024 data on unemployment today, and overall Australia's unemployment rate remained low in December as the economy extended a streak of hiring gains, underlining the labour market's unusual resilience to elevated interest rates. Employment jumped by 56,300, driven entirely by part-time roles, versus a forecast of just 15,000. The jobless rate rose to 4%, rising by 0.1 percentage points in season-adjusted terms. Now, we should say that there was some variations between the outgoing and income rotation groups this month, sufficient, I think, to explain the slight shifts that we're seeing. But the headline news is that the jobs market remains pretty strong. Australia's labour market remains incredibly tight, said Callum Pickering, the APAC economist at global job site Indeed. Pickering notes that full-time employment has accounted for 2/3 of employment gains over the past year, suggesting the economy continues to create a lot of high-quality and well-paying jobs. This sort of labour market strength, coupled with what is otherwise a weak economy, will give the RBA plenty to think about when they meet in February, he added. BetaShares chief economist David Bassanese said the impressively resilient jobs market was a big reason why the RBA should not hurry to cut interest rates. The fact remains that employment is still booming and unemployment is low despite continued cost of living pressures afflicting households, he said. The RBA's most recent economic outlook predicted the unemployment rate would average 4.3% in the December quarter. Instead, the jobless rate hovered markedly lower at 4% in the final 3 months of the year. So there is nothing here which would tilt the RBA towards a rate cut. In fact, the AFI headline was "No need for a February rate cut after bumper jobs report." Economists. In fact, economists say there is no urgency for the Reserve Bank of Australia to deliver a preemptive election rate cut in February after a bumper jobs report showed the labour market continued to defy expectations of a looming slowdown. That would leave the central bank's April meeting as the only point before an election due on May the 17th for the RBA to deliver relief to struggling households, narrowing the chance of the Albanese government getting an electoral boost from lower rates. Jim Chalmers, though, wrote, "We've shown you we can make substantial and sustained progress on inflation without sacrificing jobs. 1.1 million jobs have been created under the Albanese Labour government, including an extra 56,000 last month. No talk here about the massive migration flows which are pumping the economy, equivalent on one calculation to one person arriving every 46 seconds, or the fact that household disposable income in real terms is crashing and well below the G7 countries, the US and even OECD countries. This is the soft landing that we are seeking, that we are delivering," Dr. Chalmers told reporters. Of course, the real story is high migration. Plus, because of the financial pressure on many households, more are picking up 2 or more jobs or side hustles, with nearly 1 million Australians in this category, as reported by the ABC. Shadow Treasurer Angus Taylor said Australians were forced to take on several jobs just to pay the bills. The ABS recently released data showing that the number of people working more than one job was on the rise, now totaling 986,400 people, which is 6.6% of employed people in the country. The main reason people pick up an extra job is cost of living pressures from inflation. That's according to Professor Angela Knox from Sydney University's Business School. The other factor behind the growth in people holding multiple jobs is underemployment, where people are working fewer hours than they would like. Ms. Knox said that meant people often cobbling together other jobs to try and build up their hours to full-time work. So they're picking up extra work on the side to be able to bolster their regular income, to be able to meet their regular commitments. Another report by Great Southern Bank also found 40% of homeowners surveyed were considering a side hustle and 21% a second job to help with home loan repayments. It's a trend that Airtasker CEO Tim Fung has noticed too, with the skyrocketing cost of living driving more people to list their skills on the online freelancing platform to earn some extra cash. We've seen an 80% increase year on year in terms of people turning to this kind of work to find some extra money, he told the ABC in an interview. And the ABS also revealed more women than men were taking on side gigs, with 7.7% of employed women being multiple job holders compared to 5.8% of employed men. Younger workers, those aged 20 to 24, were also most likely to be working multiple jobs at 8.7%. It's probably because women are more likely to be working on a part-time basis and often a temporary basis as well, and they're arranging their work hours around their family commitments. The ABS said with employment rising by 56,000 people, the number of unemployed increasing by 10,000 people, the unemployment rate rose to 4%. The number of employed people grew by 0.4% in December 24, slightly higher than the average month rise of 0.3% during 2024. It was also higher than the average monthly population growth of 0.2% over the year. The employment to population ratio rose 0.1 percentage points to a new record high of 64.5%. That was 0.5 percentage points higher than a year ago and 2.3 percentage points higher than before the COVID-19 pandemic. The rise in both the number of people employed and unemployed also saw a further rise in the participation rate, that is, the percentage of the population who are employed or unemployed. The participation rate rose 0.2 percentage points to a record high of 67.1% in December. This was 0.5 percentage points higher than a year ago and 1.6 percentage points higher than March 2020. The seasonally adjusted hours worked increased by 0.5% in December 2024, which was higher than the average monthly increase of 0.3% in 2024. In annual terms, the growth in hours worked and the number of people employed was broadly similar at 3.2% and 3.1% respectively. The underemployment rate fell by 0.1 percentage points to 6% in December 2024. This was 0.6 percentage points lower than December 2023 and 2.7 percentage points lower than March 2020. The youth underemployment rate for those aged 15 to 24 years of 14.1% in December remained higher than that for the overall population, but was well below the March 2020 when it was at 19.1%, which was 5 percentage points lower. The youth underemployment rate for men was 12.1%, around 5.6 percentage points below March 2020, and 16.2% for young women in December 2024, which was 4.3% much lower than March 2020. However, recent changes in youth underemployment have been more pronounced for men than women. While there hasn't been much change recently in the underemployment rate for young women, the rate for young men had been rising from the middle of 2022 to late 2023, which was when there was strong growth in employment and the number of job vacancies began to ease. However, this has since gradually reversed throughout 2024, and their unemployment rate is now back to around where it was late in 2022, the ABS said. The underutilization rate, which combines the unemployment and underemployment rates, remained at 10% in December 2024. This was 3.9 percentage points lower than March 2020. The last time it was around 10% before the pandemic was just before the global financial crisis in 2008. Given the youth unemployment and underemployment rates in December were both particularly low, the youth underutilization rate was around 7.6 percentage points lower than March 2020 and also around its 2008 level. Just across the states, Victoria reported the highest unemployment rate at 4.4%, even ahead of Tasmania at 4.3% and the NT at 4.2%, along with South Australia. Queensland was at 3.9%, New South Wales was at 3.8%, Western Australia was 3.3%, and the ACT was at 3.1%. Now, when you peel back the onion, the bulk of recent employment gains have been in the so-called non-market sector, which includes the government-funded industries of education, healthcare, and the public service. About half the increase in hours worked across the economy in the 12 months to December was in the non-market sector. The EY senior economist, Paula Gadsby, said the potential upswing in the jobs market meant it was possible that inflation and wages growth could pick up ahead of forecasts. The tight labour market, along with weak productivity growth and elevated government spending, makes it tough for the Reserve Bank to achieve low and stable inflation. So she said, our view is that the central bank will keep rates on hold until at least the second quarter of this year and possibly later. Still, when you stand back and think about all of this, 2 points arise. The first is a lot of the jobs are indeed in the public sector, and those, of course, are funded by taxpayers. And secondly, the numbers wobble around a bit, but are still well below where the RBA was targeting. Put this together, and I agree with some of the other economists. The chances of a rate cut just went away a bit compared with just 24 hours ago. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.